Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. It's the best day of the week. It's Star Wars Talk Tuesdays, where all we do here is talk about my absolute favorite thing in the world, your absolute favorite thing in the world, Star Wars. And this is the final Star Wars Talk Tuesday that we're going to do before I see Star Wars The Last Jedi. Thanks for being here, guys. This is, of course, my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea. It is an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today as we talk about Star Wars. I'm so excited. I'm going to tell you what, guys. I just got my, in the email today, I just got my instructions for how to arrive at the world. Like, I got my invite a couple weeks ago, but today is when I got my instructions in the email of where to arrive, how to arrive, all that kind of stuff, what's happening at it. And they're saying, like, the after party, well, Disney always throws great after parties, but they're saying there's going to be events and activities going on at the after party as well. I'm thinking some lightsaber stuff. I don't know. I'm getting all kind of giddy. I'm pretty excited. So I'm going to take lots of pictures, tons of pictures. Actually, you know what? If you guys don't already follow me on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. You can follow me at John Campea, and that night, Ann and I both will be posting a hell of a lot of pictures. I'm sure we're going to do a lot. Now, how they're going to top Rogue One's premiere, I don't know, because at Rogue One's premiere, they had a full-scale X-Wing fighter right sitting there parked on Hollywood Boulevard, which was nuts. It was gorgeous. So I don't know how they're going to top that this year, but that's amazing. So yes, this Saturday, I'm going to see the film. As far as I know, there is no embargo. So as soon as I get to see the film, I'll probably come back here late Saturday night and do my review, and you'll probably see it later that night. Now, I might find out later that there is a review. Like, we might have to hold our reviews for a day or two. But as far as I know, there's no embargo, but I'll double check that to make sure. But I think my review for Star Wars The Last Jedi will be coming up on Saturday night, and then next Star Wars Talk Tuesday will be the final Star Wars Talk Tuesday before you guys get to see Star Wars The Last Jedi. It is actually here. It's hard to wrap my head around it, but it's here. The Last Jedi is here. You know, I'm thinking back to April when I had a chance to go down to Orlando for Star Wars Celebration, and they played the first trailer for The Last Jedi. And all of us knew, everybody who was in that auditorium knew, this is going to be something special. And we heard nothing but amazing positive things coming from people involved in Lucasfilm, that Lucasfilm apparently is in love with this movie. They showed their confidence in it by signing Rian Johnson. Boom, right away, you're going to do another trilogy for us. So clearly Disney loves what he did with The Last Jedi. I'm excited. You're excited. Just can't wait. I'm sorry. I'm so completely unprofessional. I don't care. I am giddy. I am excited. I am happy. Yeah, I mean, Anne has been out all week dress shopping, picking out dresses and things like that. I got to ask her, but I told people on the John Campea show earlier, I said, you know what, maybe I'm going to get her permission, but I should actually put up pictures of the different dresses she's thinking of and have you guys maybe help her pick out which dress to wear at the premiere. But whatever, I got to go get a new suit because I look like a jackass, and whenever I wear a suit, I look stupid. But whatever, I'm going to wear a suit for a Star Wars premiere. So anyway, guys, here's how today's show is going to go. I have picked out 5 topics, all Star Wars stuff that you guys have emailed into me. How do you get a topic or a question on Star Wars Talk Tuesday? It's real simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Once again, that's john@thejohncampeashow.com. And make sure you put SWTT, that stands for Star Wars Talk Tuesdays. Put SWTT in the subject line to make sure I get it and know it's an email for Star Wars Talk Tuesdays. And as always, guys, make sure you keep those emails to 90 words or less. Now, once I get through those 5 topics, I'm going to throw it open to you guys for live questions. How do you get a live question on? There's two ways to do live questions. One way is to use Twitter. Don't tweet in yet. Wait till we get close to the end of the show. Use Twitter and simply tweet to me at John Campea, and I will get just as many tweets as possible through the show, and maybe you'll see your tweet pop up here on the bottom of the screen. But also you can use, if you're watching live, you can use the super chat function in the live chat board there, and I will get through every single super chat that comes through. You can even start sending those in now. I will have them all here on the side monitor here. So when it comes time to do the live ones, I will take them all in the order that they came in. So lots of ways to get stuff on here on Star Wars Talk Tuesday. We're just going to talk Star Wars, guys. It's glorious, and we get to talk about Star Wars. Okay, so let's get on to the first email today. And the first email today comes to us from somebody who calls themselves just Minnie. What a great name. And Minnie writes, I am new to Patreon and committed for the long journey to support your channel. Thank you so much, Minnie. I really appreciate that. My question is, recently Daisy Ridley said in an interview that she will not return for any future Star Wars movie. Does that mean Kathleen Kennedy spoke too soon of new adventures that may include Rey, Finn, BB-8, etc.? Okay, so this kind of came up the other day on the John Campea show. This was last week, I think this kind of came up. So there's two basically conflicting pieces of information here, all right? One piece of information is Daisy Ridley saying, yep, after episode 9, I'm done. No more Star Wars movies for me. Maybe sometime when I'm older, I'll do another one. Right? Something like that, right? But then just about a month or so ago, Kathleen Kennedy, the head of Lucasfilm, this lady right here, she, in an interview, said that they already are planning their next 10 movies that include their characters Rey, Finn, Poe, BB-8, and so on. So we have Kathleen Kennedy saying, we've got more movies coming with Rey. And then we have Daisy Ridley saying she's only going to be doing up to episode 9. Now, it's important to point out that in that comment that Daisy Ridley made, she didn't flat out say, I'm never coming back to do Star Wars after episode 9. That's not what she said, okay? It is kind of implied, but that's not directly what she said. It was really more along the lines of, hey, I signed up to do 3 movies and it's over after episode 9. So that could mean a couple things. Number one, and this is what I believe is the most logical answer to this, Daisy Ridley's just playing a little coy, which I think is great. She's playing a little bit coy. She doesn't want people talking about episode 10, 11, and 12 right now. We still got to get through episode 8, for heaven's sakes. She doesn't want to tip her hand. She doesn't do it, so she's just kind of playing coy. I believe that's what she's doing. I believe that's the smart thing to do. I believe she's handling it perfectly. So that's what I believe. Because you can't tell me Kathleen Kennedy, who is in charge of all of this, didn't know last month that they were going to be able to have Daisy Ridley doing these movies when she already announced last month that they got 10 more movies coming, and some of them are going to include Rey. So you can't convince me for a second that Kathleen Kennedy, that, oh my gosh, Daisy Ridley's now saying she's not doing any more movies. You can't convince me of that, even for a minute. Now, there are other options, and this is where I got in a little bit of trouble with some Star Wars fans, but I stand by what I said, and I'll repeat what I said here, because I firmly believe this. Daisy Ridley is clearly, now, I don't know her personally, all right, I don't, but from everything I've seen of her, everything I've heard from people who do know her and who hang out with her, she is sweet and grounded and just down to earth and just a really delightful person from everything that we've heard. And Daisy Ridley knows that none of us would know her name if it weren't for Lucasfilm and J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy casting her as Rey in Star Wars The Force Awakens. If it wasn't for Star Wars, nobody would know who this girl is. She would have no career. Nobody would have cast her to be in Murder on the Orient Express. Nobody would have cast her anything else. Star Wars is what gave her her career. You cannot tell me for 1 minute that Daisy Ridley is some kind of ungrateful jerk. There's no way you'd be able to convince me of that. That she's going to play hardball through the media. She's going to take advantage and manipulate the public and manipulate the fans to try to get what she wants out of Lucasfilm. You will never convince me of that, ever. Now, I had some people writing to me, it's like, John, if she is doing that, that doesn't make her an ingrateful jerk. You didn't say Robert Downey Jr. was an ungrateful jerk when he was playing hardball with Marvel. Excuse me? How long have you been watching me for? You're damn fucking right. I said Robert Downey Jr. was being an ungrateful jerk because his career was dead. Robert Downey Jr.'s career was dead. It's hard for us to imagine that now because he's Robert Downey Jr. But at the time, when Disney decided to give him a shot to be Iron Man, nobody else in Hollywood was touching him with a 10-foot pole. Nobody else was going anywhere near him. And I did say, him playing hardball with Disney was damn right jerky. Because he owes his career to Disney and to Marvel for giving him his shot. To giving him a shot at redemption, I should say. And I said that very strongly. That is what I believe. It's okay if that's not what you believe. That's totally fine. But I'm being completely consistent with my belief. But again, you'll never convince me. You will never convince me that is the case with Daisy Ridley. Never in a million years. Everything we've seen from her, she is grounded, like well-adjusted, totally sweet. She seems incredibly grateful. I just can't see that happening. Now, that doesn't mean she shouldn't ask for more. Sure, she should. But look, we're 4 years away from Star Wars Episode 10, if that is even the way they do it. We're minimum 4 years away. Now wouldn't be the time for any talent to start playing hardball when you're 4 years away. I mean, so I believe she's being coy. Look, if Kathleen Kennedy wants Rey to be in another movie, Daisy Ridley will do it. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. And maybe they've got to negotiate. Maybe Daisy deserves a raise and they'll give her a raise and all that kind of nonsense. Yes, absolutely. But there's no way this is that type of drama that some people are trying to suggest it being. Like, I'm reading some people trying to suggest that, oh, behind the scenes, Kathleen Kennedy and Daisy Ridley's management are playing hardball with each other and blah, blah, blah. I don't believe that for a second. Not for a second. Number one, it doesn't seem in either of their characters. But number two, it's way too far in advance to even think in those terms. Like, maybe once it gets down to like, hey, it's 2 years till this next thing. This thing's supposed to go into production in about a year. We got to get a deal made. Maybe then some hardball stuff. But at this point, I just don't believe it. You'll never be able to convince me otherwise. That's just my thought on it. Maybe you guys have a different thought on that. Anyway, okay, let's go to the next topic. And the next topic today comes to us from Scott Utley. And Scott Utley writes, congratulations on the 100,000 subscribers. Thank you so much, Scott. I'm still kind of overwhelmed by that number, actually. With all the talk of Fox and Disney negotiating to buy Fox's movie division, what do you think of the chance, if the deal goes through, that we might be able to get the original trilogy re-released again on Blu-ray, but that this time the despecialized editions? One can only hope. Well, I hate to be the one to crap all over everybody's dreams. That seems to be my lot in life, to quote C-3PO. Look, I've seen a lot of people getting excited about the idea that if Disney does indeed acquire a bunch of Fox's assets, first of all, we don't know if that includes the rights to Star Wars. We don't know that because those belong to Fox. It's not a movie production entity, right? But it could be included. A lot of people getting excited about the notion that finally that means we'll get the original trilogy without the special edition stuff, without all that extra stuff that George Lucas added later. We'll get the original trilogy on Blu-ray. And you know what? I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I really do. 100% I hope you're right. But I don't think we are. Because, and I've said this for a while, I believe that, first of all, go back to George Lucas. To George Lucas, those original versions of the movie do not exist. The new special edition stuff is George's definitive version of the movie. Now, you can like it or dislike it. I can like it or certainly dislike it, but that's the way it is. George Lucas said, this is Star Wars. This is Empire Strikes Back. This is Return of the Jedi now. Whatever you saw in the late 1970s, early 1980s, that's not the movie anymore. This is the movie. And I believe that when George Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney, I believe that a part of that deal was you don't pull those original versions out again. Those are no longer the movie. These are the movie. These are my definitive vision of the movie. That's what Star Wars is now. So I don't see Disney putting them out because I believe that's what George Lucas wants. George Lucas wants the special editions, 4th or 5th revisions, whatever they are. Those are what Star Wars is now. So even if Disney gets them, I don't think we're ever getting those original pre-special edition stuff released on Blu-ray. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it would be great. Now you can say to me, but John, Disney knows they could make money, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. That's great. And I hope you're right. You and I will party together and take some shots, even though I don't drink. But I will take shots with you in celebration if you're right. But none of that is relevant if George made it a part of the deal that this is not Star Wars anymore. This is what Star Wars is. And if that's the deal, it doesn't matter how much money Disney thinks they can make. They're going to honor that deal. They're going to have no choice but to honor that deal. Legally, they'd have to. So, but then again, maybe I'm wrong. That would be awesome because I have been clamoring for some true Blu-ray original trilogy goodness. And if that can happen, that will be a day long remembered, my friend. It will see the end of the special editions and the resurgence of the original trilogy in their purest form. And that will be something we can have a good time about. All right, let's move on to the next topic. And the next topic today comes to us from Lewis Round, who writes, "Hi, John. You have the best Star Wars show on the net." Well, thank you so much, Lewis. It's because you guys make it that way. What are your top 3 things you want to see in The Last Jedi? And also, do you believe Reylo is even possible? Thanks, and keep up the good work. Well, first of all, let's talk about the Reylo thing just for a second. Yep, I think it's possible. Do I think it's a reality? I'm not sure about that. But you'd have to be sticking your head in the sand if you don't think it's at least possible, especially after watching the trailers. Now, granted, you and I both know there's a lot of misdirection in those trailers. We know that. But whether the Reylo stuff is misdirection or not, we don't know that for sure. I think it's possible. Let me rephrase. I think it's possible we're going to get some kind of Reylo thing going on. Whether it's a romance or whether it's a partnership or whether it's whatever. I think it's possible it does happen. I wouldn't put my money on it at this point, but if you're asking me, is it possible? Yep, it's possible. And some of you are yelling and screaming at the computer monitor right now, no, but it's possible. And you know what? If it does happen, let's not freak out. Let's see what Rian Johnson is going, where Rian Johnson's going with it. Because maybe he's got something great in mind for it. Now, I'll be like you. I will also want to pull the Vader, no, if I see that happening on screen. But let's take a breath if it does start to happen and realize Rian Johnson's a master filmmaker. Let's see where he's going with this because it might be somewhere really great. So it's possible. Now, as far as the 3 things I want to see, you know me, I don't like to go in with a lot of expectations about what I want them to do in this movie, but I can't help it. I am human. So I do have a couple things I want to see. And I think 1 or 2 of them are easily they're going to happen. First thing, and I don't know if this can happen or not, I want to see Luke Skywalker kicking some fool's ass. I want to see Luke Skywalker beating on some fools and just tossing them around like rag dolls. I want to see Luke Skywalker unleashing his power. That's what I want to see. And I don't care if it's stormtroopers. I don't care if it's rude kids hanging out in front of the 7-Eleven. I don't care who. I just want to see Luke Skywalker kicking some ass. I mean, that's number 1. Who it is, whatever they want to do, that's fine. I just want to see Luke Skywalker kick some ass. The second thing I want to see is something we did not get in The Force Awakens. The movie's called Star Wars. I'd like to see some wars amongst the stars. I want to see some epic space battle scenes. Now, according to the trailer, it looks like that we're going to get that, for sure. But if you're asking me what is I really want to make sure I get, I want to make sure I get a good, awesome space battle scene. To me, the greatest space battle scene, not just in Star Wars history, but in film history, is still Return of the Jedi. Pardon me. That battle scene over the moon of Endor, as that Lando's leading, that is to me still the single best space battle scene ever done in Hollywood. That is the best. Nothing's ever touched it. There have been some really great ones. Obviously, I think Revenge of the Sith had a really good one. Obviously, Rogue One has some really great stuff in there as well, too. But I want to see great, epic space battles. Thirdly, and I'm not sure how they're going to do this, I want to see something definitive as far as Leia goes. Either they kill her off, or they set up definitively that she's moving into episode 9. And I'm still keeping my fingers crossed that they recast. I think they owe it to Carrie Fisher to pick up the ball. You guys know how I feel about this. I believe they owe it to Carrie Fisher to pick up the ball and carry it across the finish line for her. I believe Carrie Fisher deserves to have Princess Leia finish out this 9-episode arc, finish this off, take her into episode 9, and finish it off. And if not, then, you know, then kill off the character. And that's fine too, if they give her a great, grand, heroic death. So the 3 things I really want to see. 1 is Luke kicking some ass. 2, an epic space battle scene. 3, something definitive done with Leia. Either definitively she dies in this episode, which is fine if that's what they do, give her a great heroic send-off, or definitively set it up that she's going into episode 9. Don't do something ambiguous where she's like, oh, okay, Leia says at the end, okay, I'm going to go off to Mustafar and collect some data, and then we just don't see her again. I mean, I don't want something like that. So those are the 3 things that I'm bringing to the table that I really want to see. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. Thanks so much for the question, by the way. The next topic comes to us from Brennan Tyleman. And Brennan Tyleman writes, I saw an interview with Rian Johnson yesterday saying that his first cut of The Last Jedi was over 3 hours long. Why do you think that Disney made him shorten it? Didn't they learn anything from Justice League? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And I'm glad you brought this up because this goes back to this thing that there seems to be this, look, all film is subjective. You can have your opinion on this. That's awesome. Just because I have a different opinion doesn't mean you should change yours. But I'm going to tell you what my opinion is and why it is my opinion. Doesn't mean you have to change your opinion. I'm just giving you mine. I believe it is a drastic misunderstanding of film that is going around, that longer, better. Longer equals better. And that is not true. That's just not true. And when news came out the other day about Rian Johnson saying that his first cut was closer to 3.5 hours long, he said it was well over 3 hours long, that I knew there's going to be a lot of people who were probably well, why aren't we getting that? Why aren't we getting the 3.5 hour version? And I totally understand. Trust me, I totally get it. I do. But longer does not equal better. Now, some people I'm sure will go, well, John, Lord of the Rings was 3 hours long. Yes, but that's the rule of exception. You can't point to the exception and say, there, that proves everything. It's like pointing at Deadpool and saying, there, comic book movies work best rated R. Yeah, but you're ignoring the 14 other R-rated comic book movies that came out and flopped. You can't just pick out the exception and say the exception becomes the rule. So yes, Lord of the Rings work best as 3+ hours, but that doesn't mean other movies do. And I think Rian Johnson has shown what a level head he has, how smart he is, and how much he understands film. Listen to these comments that Rian Johnson made talking about the 3.5 hour cut and why we're not going to get it. Here's what he said, and this is great. I love this guy. He wrote, we had a long movie from the start. It was well over 3 hours the first cut. It's much better. Listen to this. It's much better at 2.5 hours than it was at over 3. But it was a cut I had put together, is where we started, and it was over 3 hours. He goes on to say, a lot of really good stuff came out in the edit. I actually just reviewed the deleted scenes we're going to have on the Blu-ray. There's a bunch of some of my favorite scenes ended up having come out just structurally. Finally, he says, I'm really not into releasing an extended cut. I feel like the cut is what it is because I feel it's the best version of the movie. So the director's cut is the movie that's going to come out in theaters. All the deleted scenes, no matter how much I love them, they came out for a reason, and it's all for the greater good of the movie itself. And see, Rian Johnson, this is why he's the director, man. This is why he is the one who just got signed up to do a new trilogy. He understands that just because you have some great scenes doesn't make for a better overall movie. Just cramming it in other great scenes doesn't make the movie better. He understands that, hey, at 3 hours plus, it wasn't the best movie it could be. It had to be shortened up to be the best movie it can be, to have the best pace, the best flow, highlight the strengths of the film, cover up the weaknesses of the film. All that kind of stuff happens best when you start to edit away. And I love his philosophy of that. And just because, like he's saying, yeah, there were some great scenes we cut out. But just because there were great scenes doesn't mean it would have been a good idea to put them in the movie. And he is so right. I wish he would go and have a discussion with these people who keep crying for, and I understand it's what they want. That's great. It's totally within the right. But these people who keep crying out for I want the 2.5-hour version of Justice League, as if that's going to fix it. Just put more stuff in. That will make it better. Just put in more. That makes it better. And Rian Johnson will go and sit down and say, folks, that's not how filmmaking works. It's not how it works. And I love that he has that philosophy. Again, there are some movies that should be 90 minutes long because they work perfectly at 90 minutes long. There are some movies that should be 3 hours long because they work perfectly at 3 hours long. But I think both of those extremes are the rare exception. And I really love Rian Johnson's philosophy here. It's comments like this that make me trust him even more. That he understands just because I shot a great scene and I love it, that doesn't mean it makes for the best movie. I'm going to cut it out even though I made it and even though I love it, I'm cutting it out to make a better film. And I love that. Doesn't that just ooze confidence? Doesn't that just give you a lot of confidence in a filmmaker who can look at his own creation that way? It does for me. It makes me feel incredibly confident that this franchise is in the right set of hands right now. And I personally love it. Anyway, okay, let's move on to the final email question of the day, and then we'll go to your live questions. The final email question today comes to us from Amin M, who writes, hello, John. Greetings from Hamilton. Well, Hamilton, for those of you who don't know, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada is my hometown, also known as the Hammer. Spent a lot of my days growing up there in Limeridge Mall. Anyway, love the show. I have an over-under for you. Over or under 45%. The chances that The Last Jedi makes $230 million opening weekend. What if the film gets immensely positive reviews? Would that help boost the box office numbers? I know it is very unlikely to catch The Force Awakens, but I think it will come close. Thanks and keep up the great work. Well, if you've been watching me for any period of time, you know that I do not believe that The Last Jedi will catch The Force Awakens, and it doesn't need to, by any stretch of the imagination. So if you're asking me at 45% that it hits 230, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the under. But John, you might say, what if it gets in really good reviews? Well, it needs to get really great reviews to get over 200 million. Now, I think it can get over 200 million opening weekend, which would only be the third or fourth film in history to get over 200 million on opening weekend. I think, but it's going to need all those things. It's going to need great positive word of mouth. It's going to need great fan reaction. It's going to need great critic reviews to get over 200 million. I still feel like 230 is too much to hope for. And my fear is that some people, even though 200 million would be like only the third or fourth film in history to make that much money opening weekend, my fear is that some people have this number in their head, like it's gonna crush 250, it's gonna do 200, and then the movie won't, and then some people go, oh, well, why did it come up short? What went wrong? Like, my fear is that Star Wars The Last Jedi is going to make like $205 million opening weekend, which is historic, and there are going to be people who go, oh, wow, what went wrong? Why did it come up short? What happened to the movie? What are you talking about? It's like the third or fourth film in history to crack $200 million. It's a raging success. But my fear is that some people have some unrealistic expectations going into it, and it's going to affect. I guarantee you watch. I'm telling you right now, you watch. Star Wars The Last Jedi is going to open, and it's going to have, if it hits like $205 million, outstanding success. You watch. There are going to be Twitter discussions and chatboard forums and YouTube videos and blog posts and headlines reading what went wrong for The Last Jedi. What went wrong? And I'm going to absolutely lose my mind. I'm going to lose my mind when that happens. So anyway, yeah, that's just kind of my thought on that. So I'm going to take the under, but it is possible. It is certainly possible. I'd say it probably comes in around cracking $230 million. I'm going to go with, say, a 30% chance. So I'll take the under on 45, but I still think there's a chance it happens, but I'll take the under on 45% for sure. And let's see, hopefully I'm wrong. Wouldn't it be awesome if I am? All right, guys, so that will do it for the pre-selected questions of today's show. I'm now going to go to the live questions. Once again, 2 ways to get a live question on. Number 1, you can jump on Twitter and tweet to me at John Campea. Number 2, you can use the super chat function. There's already a bunch of super chats lined up. I'll get to those in just a second. But first, it's time for me to do my little commercial break. Of course, it is my shameless plug that I need to do for my Patreon campaign. That's what keeps the lights on around here. So we will be back in just 1 minute after this word from me, my sponsor. For those of you who have followed me for any period of time, you guys know that I made the decision recently to leave the corporate overlords. I no longer wanted to work for corporations. I wanted to be an independent content creator. And the only way I've been able to do that is by the support of my Patreon supporters. So what I would like to do is to ask you guys who watch my shows, who spend any amount of time with me every single month, to consider going over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. There you'll get all the information about what exactly does it mean to be a Patreon supporter of mine? What does being a Patreon supporter do for helping to make sure that shows like this one and all the other shows I do here on my channel can actually be produced? And on top of that, what benefits are there to being a Patreon supporter? And maybe if you guys can check that out, if you decide you want to be one of my Patreon supporters, that would be awesome. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine too. I'm just happy that you guys have decided to be here today and be a fellow movie fan and join us in the conversation. So go and check out the website, see if you want to become a Patreon supporter. And now let's get back. All right, and a special thank you to all of you guys who are already Patreon supporters. Remember, Patreon supporters get audio-only podcasts of the John Campea Show, Star Wars Talk Tuesdays, and Weekly Hero. We do a John Campea after show, just a few minutes after each day of the John Campea Show is done on our exclusive Facebook group. We do an after show for Patreon supporters, stuff like that. And we just go check out the Patreon page and see if becoming a Patreon supporter is right for you. All right, with that out of the way, let's get to the live questions. We're going to start things off over with the super chats that have come in, and a whole bunch of them have come in. So let's get started over here with these. And the first super chat, let me just get this adjusted here a little bit, comes to us from Anthony. And Anthony writes, is it possible we are getting an animated series that takes place between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens? Dave Filoni teased that another series was in the works. It's totally possible. I mean, because if you think about it, there's a huge gap of time, a huge window of time between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. Now, whether or not that's actually the window they're going to go for, I'm not sure. But if you really think about it for a minute, there is such a wide period of time there. And you can talk about the formation of the New Republic. You can talk about the formation of the Resistance. You can talk about the formation of the First Order. Or you can go off in a million other different directions too. There's a lot of things you can do with that period of time. So it's totally possible that they go in that direction. All right. The next super chat comes to us from Reggie Phoenix. Thanks very much for sending in a super chat, Reggie. And Reggie writes, hey, John, love the show. What do you think is the bigger reveal? Who's Rey? What do you think is the biggest reveal? Who Rey's parents are, what Luke has been up to, or Snoke's identity? Well, look, if you've been watching me for any period of time, you know, I don't think who Rey's parents are is going to be that big of a deal. I think they're going to be a nobody of consequence. I also don't think Snoke's identity is going to be that big of a deal. He's Snoke. You know, that's all we need to know. He's the supreme leader. That's all we really need to know. How much do we need to know about the Emperor? In Star Wars Empire Return of the Jedi, we didn't need to know a lot. He's the Emperor. That's all we needed to know. I think maybe, so therefore, I think the biggest reveal that I'm looking forward to is what Luke is actually, first of all, what actually led Luke to being on that island. Like, yeah, we know about, okay, he was crushed because of his failure as an instructor, but really, what went on behind the scenes? What led him to that decision that brought him to the island? That's the kind of stuff I'm really looking forward to, so I'll say that's going to be the biggest reveal. That's just my thought anyway. Thank you so much. All right, let's go here. This next one comes to us from, where is it? I think it was Keith. Yes, Keith. Keith Franklin writes, don't think we necessarily need to know who Rey's parents are, but we need to know why Kylo knows about her and why she was abandoned. Well, first of all, Keith, who says he did know about her? Well, John, the way he said, what girl? Okay, but that's just you interpreting that. Nothing, if you really stop and think about it, nothing in the movie actually explicitly said that Kylo knows anything about her. He said, "What girl?" And that's about it. Now, you and I and some other people might look at that scene and interpret, well, that might mean that he knows who she is. Maybe, it could, but it's not definitive, right? Like, it's not definitive. It doesn't come right out and say, this is the way it is. Okay, so let's keep that in mind, first of all. If he does know who she is, I will expect them to reveal how he knows who she is in this movie. But again, I'm not 100% sold on the notion that he does know who she is. But John, the way he said, "What girl?" Fine, but that's open to interpretation. That's not the movie explicitly saying that, right? So it could go one way or could the other. I'm anxious to find out, just like you. So let's see what they say about that. All right, this next one, super chat, comes to us from Fraud79, who writes, based on Justice League's box office performance, is Solo movie facing the same battle? Well, the Solo movie does not face the same expectations that Justice League did. Remember, Justice League was the Avengers of the DC Cinematic Universe. It's the pinnacle of what the DC Cinematic Universe is. The Solo movie is nowhere near the pinnacle of what Star Wars movies are. Episode 8 is, Episode 9 is, Episode 10 is. These anthology films are not the pinnacle. They don't carry with them the same expectations that a Star Wars Episode 8 or Star Wars Episode 9 or Star Wars Episode 10 eventually will. Like, Rogue One didn't have the same expectations as The Force Awakens. Solo does not have the same expectations of, say, Episode 8. So I don't think it's facing the same battle. I don't think it's facing it at all. I think it's going to have its own unique sets of challenges, but the fact of the matter is there are much lower expectations for, say, a Han Solo movie than, say, we should have had for a Justice League movie. And on that basis, I don't think Solo is going to face the same challenges. Thanks a lot for the question, man. I appreciate that. All right, next one comes to us from Anthony R. And Anthony R. writes, is it possible Rey is a former student of Luke's and he used the Force to mind wipe her and send her away to protect her from Snoke and Ren? Totally possible, because that does... Look, I don't believe that for a second, but it's possible. Because that theory does fit in with the fact that she's not a Skywalker, that maybe Luke is already aware of who and what she is, and it would explain why she was sent away. So it would check off all those boxes. I still don't think that's what they're doing. But the theory itself is a sound theory because it does check off enough of the boxes. Again, I don't think that's the way it's going to go, but it is theoretically possible, and we shouldn't be shocked if the movie comes and we find out that that's what's going on. Thanks a lot for the question, Anthony. All right, Cameron Peterson, without a comment or question, just decided to fire off a buck in the super chat. Thank you so much, Cameron. You're helping to keep the lights on around here. I appreciate that. James Smith writes, if Rey does join Kylo, I don't think it's because she actually is, but a part of a plan. I just don't think they'll do the same like with Anakin in any way. Well, look, yeah, and that's, James, that is really the big contentious point with a lot of the debate going on about Rey. Would Rey go dark? And I'm going to tell you, I'm perfectly happy if she doesn't. Don't get me wrong. But oh my goodness. The epic-sized balls that it would take for Lucasfilm to take Rey, who is now a darling to little girls and little boys and Star Wars fans everywhere, and actually have her go dark. I'd be a big fan. I'm not going to lie to you. I'd be a fan of the move. Totally good if they don't. Totally understand. And I'm not saying that's the way they're going to go, but I think it's possible. I think it's possible you could see a little switcheroo action going on. I think it's possible, not however unlikely, to quote, the Death Star officer, it is possible, however unlikely, that Kylo goes good while Rey goes bad, and then they kind of switcheroo spots. That is unlikely. It's totally unlikely, but I think it would be kind of interesting to see. But you're right, James. You're right when you point out that it would feel a little similar to the Anakin path. But it is a common theme in the movie, so we shouldn't discount it too easily. Let's see what they do with it. Great question. All right, next one comes to us from Rian Johnson, who writes, hey, John, who's the most powerful Jedi and Sith besides Luke and Vader? And who are your favorite Jedi and Sith besides Luke and Vader? Well, there's no question. It's Luke and it's Vader. I mean, it's great that you're asking me besides Luke and Vader, but I can't go outside of that. It's Luke and it's Vader. I mean, that's the Jedi. That's the Sith to me. Now you can go Satine from, you know, Old Republic and stuff like that. That's cool too. You can do, gosh, Darth Malgus is a big one. You can do, you know, the Emperor himself. You can talk about the legend stuff with Plagueis. You can do all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's Luke and it's Vader. It's like saying, who's your favorite? Who do you think is the best hockey player ever besides Wayne Gretzky? Well, come on. Any discussion about the greatest hockey player ever has got to start with Wayne Gretzky. Of course it does. So I'm going to cheat on your question a little bit, Riley. I'm going to go Luke. I mean, there's certainly, especially when you get in Old Republic, there's some great Jedi characters in there. When you get into some of the extended universe stuff, also now known as the Legend stuff, there's some great stuff in there as well, both on the Sith and the Jedi side. But it's Luke and it's Vader, right? I mean, it's Luke and it's Vader. Iconic Comic just decided to fire in a $20 super chat without a comment. Thank you so much, Iconic Comic. Again, thank you for helping to keep the lights on. I really appreciate that. Cameron Peterson writes, what about Rian Johnson's comments about him pitching a new trilogy story with all brand new characters for 10 to 12 that Lucasfilm is contemplating? I am not aware of those comments. As a matter of fact, what my understanding is that his new trilogy is not 10, 11, and 12. I think his new trilogy is outside of that, if I understood it right. So I'm not, you'd have to do me a favor, jump into the chat board and put in a link to, so that everybody in the chat board can see where those comments are coming from. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm unaware of those comments. I'm unaware of those comments. So if you can put in a link to that so everybody, I can read it after the show and everybody else can read it as well, that would be super useful. Thanks a lot, Cameron. All right, the next one comes to us from Quaijano89, who writes, hey, John, big fan, thank you so much. If they make an Old Republic trilogy, what events from Legends would you want to see on film? Hyperspace War, Jedi Civil War, etc. Honestly, like you guys have heard me say this before, I carry no expectations into it. I want them to make whatever they think the best stories is. I'm not going to go into, well, you should follow this storyline or do this story hook or this plot. I just kind of, I don't like to get into that game very much. So to me, it's just like, I'm your audience, dude. I'm sitting here. I'm in the theater. Do it. Do your thing and let me just soak it in and enjoy it without any preconceived expectations from me. Now, I know I just said, oh, I want to see Luke kicking ass. I want to do it. Yeah, but I don't really need to see those things. That doesn't have to happen. So honestly, when it comes to this stuff, I really don't think they need to. Now, let's keep this in mind too, Quaijano, that Kathleen Kennedy's made it very clear that Legends is not canon. But the Star Wars Story Group is totally free to dip into Legends to cherry pick out anything they want to make canon. So we could see a lot of stuff there coming out of the canon lore, or we may see nothing coming out of the canon lore. It may be all brand new right from scratch. So let's check our expectations a little bit and let's see what they do with it. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. We go on to Blind Man, who writes in, what if Luke turned to the dark side and hid away? Hey, man, seriously, thank you, Blind Man, for saying that, because honestly, I think it was like 2 nights ago, Ann and I were out for dinner, and I remember that thought crossed my mind. Like, I think there is something Luke is ashamed of. And I don't know what it is. I think it's more, and I could be totally wrong about this, but I think there's more going on with Luke than just, I feel like I failed because my students turned bad and all that kind of stuff. That could be it. That could totally be the whole story. But I kind of suspect there might be something else. I wonder, remember I talked about this on Star Wars Talk Tuesday about a month ago, I guess. But that line in the trailer when Luke says, I've only seen a power like this once before. It didn't scare me then. It scares me now. I wonder if he's talking about his own power. I can't help but wonder if he realized he had that kind of power and it didn't scare him, and then he did something tragic, and now that kind of power scares him. And so I'm with you, Blind Man, on that. I think there's a possibility here. I don't know that he went dark, but I think there's a possibility here that there's more to Luke's shame, more to Luke's guilt, more to Luke's self-exile than just him feeling like he failed. I think there might be something more than that. I don't know that that's the case. I could be totally wrong, absolutely. I probably am wrong, but I got a sneaking suspicion there's something more to it. Thank you so much for the question. All right, let's move on. Chris Milano writes, Love the show, and I love Star Wars. Well, thank you so much, Chris. I say this all the time, but a lot of people look at me and they think, that John Campea. He's a man amongst men. He's a titan amongst the gods. But the reality is, I have a fragile self-image. I'm very fragile. And when guys like you say reaffirming things, that actually means a lot to me. So thank you so much for the comment. I appreciate you taking time to write that in. All right, we move on now to Iconic Comic. Where did Iconic Comic go? I lost him. There he is. Hey, John, fellow YouTuber here. Well, great, awesome. Much smaller channel, obviously. Well, don't say obviously. I've got 100,000 subscribers. That makes me tiny compared to a lot of other channels. But obviously, watch you every day, and you inspire us to be bigger. Rey constructs her lightsaber. Will it be a staff? And if it isn't, is that a mistake? Okay. I know everybody yells at me when I bring this up, but I still believe there is more to that staff. I believe there's a hell of a lot more to that staff. I think there's something special about the staff. I don't think it's just a random piece of long metal that she uses to fight. I believe there's a secret in the staff. What it is, I don't know. And maybe I'm going to see The Force Awakens on Saturday and I realize, nope, just a stupid piece of metal. That's totally possible. But I am still kind of holding on to this belief that there's something more to that staff. Whether it's, you know, the old weapon of Darth this or Darth that, I mean, I think there's something more to it. Otherwise, no. If she's building a new lightsaber from scratch, I don't think Luke has her build something out of a staff. I think Luke teaches her what he was taught. Build a lightsaber and make a proper one. That's probably what he's going to teach her. So I believe that's the way they would go with it, but I still believe there's something special about that staff. I don't care what anybody from Lucasfilm has said. I don't care what Daisy Ridley has said. I still believe there's something unique and special to that staff that we're going to find out about either in The Last Jedi or in Episode 9. We'll have to wait and see. Or I'll be proved wrong right away in Star Wars The Last Jedi. All right, thanks a lot. Next question comes to us from Matt Schoolart, who writes, do you think Luke's green lightsaber is hidden in R2 and will get a Return of the Jedi tribute as R2 launches it for Luke to ignite the green? I think Luke's got his lightsaber. Unless I'm missing something, why wouldn't he have his lightsaber on the island? I think he's probably got it. I don't think it's hidden away in R2. I think he has it. But how many chills and bumps in our arms are we going to get if R2 does open up his dome and fires out his lightsaber? That would be kind of cool too. I'm with you on that, but I don't think there's any reason to assume he doesn't already have his lightsaber. So I think he's good there. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. The next one comes to us from Robert Tabrizi, who writes, hey, John, thanks for the quality content. Thank you for the comment, man. I really appreciate that. If this deal with Disney buying some of Fox's assets happens, does that impact rights of the original trilogy in any way? Well, as we mentioned a little bit earlier here, I'm not really sure about that. I mean, I'm not completely sure that that is the case. I would have to, so I don't know if the rights are tied up with Fox proper. If they are, then Disney isn't buying Fox proper. They're buying some of Fox's assets. Whether or not these Star Wars rights would be lumped in with those rights, I'm not really 100% sure. I just got to grab something here. I'm not really 100% sure that that's the case. So we're going to have to wait and see. There's a lot of unanswered questions here. First of all, we don't even know if the deal is going to go through. But if it does, there are still a couple of really big questions we have to ask and a couple of big issues that we have to take a look at that I'm still not quite sure. It's a very befuddled mess. And I'd like to assume that it includes the Star Wars rights, but we don't know for sure that that's the case. We're just going to have to wait and see. But thanks a lot for the question, man. Let's see. Angel Chang is writing, I've been asking this myself for a while. What's more impossible to beat? The Force Awakens opening weekend or domestic total? Well, the domestic total, I mean, by far, more than Avatar, more than Titanic. Let me look it up here. Let's see. The Force Awakens box office. Let me bring this up. I know it made over $2 billion worldwide, but domestically alone, it made $936 million. I think that by far puts it head and shoulders above everything else. Let me bring up the all-time domestic number here. Okay, so Star Wars The Force Awakens made $936 million domestically. Second place is $170 million behind it, and that's Avatar at $760 million. So while both are nearly impossible to catch, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that catching the all-time domestic record will be even more difficult and even more impossible than the impossible task of catching the opening weekend box office numbers. Most of those numbers are crazy impossible, but I think the overall domestic gross, 936, the damn movie nearly made $1 billion domestically alone. Wrap your head around that for a second. That's how big The Force Awakens was. Unbelievable. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Angel. The next one comes to us from Whale Bin Nali, who writes, no question, although I have many, just keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Whale. I really appreciate that, and hopefully I'm not brutally mispronouncing your way. W-A-E-L. Whale? I'm going to go with Whale, although maybe I'm wrong, but thank you so much. I appreciate that. Next one comes to us from C. Say, who writes, John, can't wait to hear that first lightsaber. Oh my God, man. You and me both. I'm going to be sitting in that theater. I'm sure you are too. And the first time we hear, vroom, and the lightsaber, that was a terrible lightsaber impersonation, by the way. Vroom. Anyway, that sounds like a decrepit fart. Anyway, vroom. Okay, so that lightsaber turns on, chills, hair standing up all over the place. Going to be losing our minds. Cannot wait. Ignition Pictures writes in, hello, Sir Campea. hello, Ignition. Ignition? Anyway, the Blu-ray special features for the prequels are amazing. I totally agree. 100% agree. Do you think Lucasfilm will go as in-depth with the Last Jedi Blu-ray? If so, what would you geek out to see there so far? Greetings from Chile, and keep up the amazing work. Thank you so much. And look, as much as I bash on the prequels, there are a couple things I will always defend. I will always defend the lightsaber fights. I will always defend the pod race. I will always defend the visual effects. And I will absolutely always defend the special features on the DVDs. The special features, I mean, I'm not sure which were better, the special features on the Star Wars prequel discs or the special features on the Lord of the Rings disc. They're both epic and wonderful and really give you your money's worth, man. Like, I could sit down, even though I don't like the movies, I could watch those special features on the Star Wars prequel stuff all day. All day. If you've never actually sat down to watch them, it's awe-inspiring. It really, really is. I'm totally with you. What do I want to see on it? I want to see maybe a little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff about Carrie Fisher. On two levels. I want to see a tribute to Carrie Fisher on there. But number two, I want to see some of the meetings. I would love to see some of the meetings where, you know, after Carrie passed away last year, them going, what do we do? What do we do? Where do we go from here? I think that would be really fascinating to get an inside look at that. I think that would be really cool to see. Thank you so much for the question, man. All right. Next one comes to us from Spider. And by the way, guys, I need to make sure I get on to the Twitter questions. So do me a favor, guys. If you have not sent in a super chat yet, please don't send in a super chat at this point. Because I'm just going to finish off the super chats we have because I want to make sure we save some time for the people sending in Twitter questions as well. I know it feels counterproductive to say, hey, guys, don't send me any more money. Please don't send me money. But I'm asking, please don't send in any more because I want to make sure I give some time to the people sending in Twitter questions as well. All right, so Spider-Storm Films writes in, hey, John, I'm a huge fan of the channel. Do you think or know that Luke will use his green lightsaber, and how do you think it will be revealed? Thanks. We have no idea. I mean, I've already mentioned it earlier. That is the one thing, one of the main things. This is the most important thing I want to see in this Star Wars movie, is that my little heart desires to see Luke whip out that lightsaber and take some fools to school. That's what I want to see. I want to see it so badly I can taste it in my mouth. That's how badly I want to see it. Now, as far as, you know, how do we think it's going to be revealed? You know what? Honestly, they're probably not going to do anything too special with that. He's probably just going to reach under his robe and pull out his lightsaber and say, okay, let's train, or something like that. So I'm not expecting them to do anything like mind-blowing or mind-boggling, anything like that. Thanks a lot for the question. All right, this next one comes to us from Kendall Barker, who writes, do you think Rian Johnson's trilogy, if it has Force users, could have its own types of Jedi/Sith with new mythology or try something new crazy? I certainly hope not. The Jedi and Sith have been around for millennia. leave. You do not touch, as far as I'm concerned, you do not touch the mythology of explore the mythology of the Sith and Jedi. Look, in the movie universe, they have barely touched the mythology of the Sith and the Jedi. So go deeper, absolutely, but don't start changing the mythology of the Sith and the Jedi. I would be 100% against that, totally against it. Explore the depths of it that they've never done, but don't change it. So that would be important to me, but thank you for the question. All right, let's move on now here. Andre Yezerbilov. Sorry if I'm butchering your name, man. Forgive me. Greetings from Rostov-on-Don, Russia. Well, thank you for writing from Russia. John, I want to ask about The Last Jedi spoiler that you know. Will you reveal it after the worldwide release? No. No. I might reveal it 3 weeks after the release, because I'm not going to give away spoilers. Like, not everybody can run out and see it on opening weekend, and even though it's open here, there might be some other countries it's not open in yet, so I'm going to keep the spoiler under wraps until such time that everybody's had a chance to see it, and then I'll talk about it. But until that time, I've got it. It would be unfair for me to reveal that. But thank you so much for the question. All right, this next one comes to us from David Stoneback, who writes, love your show, man. Thank you so much, David. I deeply appreciate it. Honestly, you have no idea. It's not just lip service. You have no idea how much that means to me. Thank you. Mike Hill writes, do you think Plagueis will show up in episode 8 or 9? Well, remember, I used to think Snoke was Plagueis. I was dead 100% sure. Well, not 100% sure, but I was sure, with some room for doubt. But I really thought Snoke was Plagueis. Doesn't look like that's what they're doing. But with that out of the way, if Snoke is not Plagueis, nope. I really don't think there's any chance that we see him show up. I think that's gone, and their opportunity for that is gone, so I don't think we're going to see him. I mean, look, maybe in some anthology movie they decide to explore Plagueis. If they want to do a, Palpatine origin film, maybe then we'll see him, but I don't think we're going to see him in the episodic films moving forward. All right, second to last question. Would Rey still be considered a hero if she ends up turning to the dark side? Well, it all depends. Certainly, she was a hero in The Force Awakens. Nothing changes that. She was a hero. It all depends what they do with her by the end of the trilogy. If she goes dark and stays dark by the time Episode 9 finishes, then maybe not. But if she plays around with the dark side a little bit, but ultimately comes back to the light by the end of Episode 9, then yes, we still look at her as a hero. I mean, it really all depends. You can never really say based on a single moment, or even a series of moments. You have to look at the entire trilogy and see really how did this play out. And we'll have to wait and see how she plays out. But if she starts to go dark, it doesn't mean she's going to stay dark. Let's see what they do with her, and if they give her a redemption story as well. Staying on with the theme of Anakin and Vader. I mean, it's possible that they do that. All right, and the last question today here comes to us from Franco Gonzalez Mejia, who writes, wouldn't Luke turning to the dark side make the end of Return of the Jedi pointless? I'll never go to the dark side. I'm a Jedi like my father before me. Well, not necessarily. Look, how many people have said, I will never smoke again, and then a year later they pick up a cigarette? I mean, it happens. How many guys have said, I will never look at pornography on the internet again? 5 minutes later, they're looking at pornography on the internet again. I mean, so, no, it doesn't make it pointless. Luke's stand at the end of Return of the Jedi is ultimately the thing that led to the redemption of Vader and the fall of the Empire. So, just because if he did go dark, and I don't think Luke is going to go dark. I think he might make mistakes, but I don't think he's going to go dark. But even if he did, that doesn't, unless the Emperor comes back to life and Vader comes back to life and stays evil and the Empire never falls, unless that happens, then absolutely it does not render the end of Return of the Jedi pointless. Because the effects of Luke's heroic stand in Return of the Jedi are still in effect. It triggers the redemption of Vader, it leads to the death of Palpatine and the fall of the Empire and the ushering in of a new age in the galaxy. That is all still in place, even if Luke ends up going dark, which I do not believe he's going to do, but even if he did, we got to keep that in mind. All right, guys, once again, please, no more super chats right now, because I want to spend the next 15 minutes or so. I know we're going way over time, but you know what? It's my fucking show. So we're going to go to the tweet board one more time, guys. Just jump on Twitter and tweet to me at John Campea. That's the address you're going to want to send to me at, is at John Campea. Just start your tweet with at John Campea, finish it off, and I will get to just as many of these questions as I possibly can. All right, here, let's see if my thing is ready to go, and we are. And the first tweet comes to us from Chris2CWC, who writes, John, if Yoda shows up in The Last Jedi, will he be a CGI or puppet? I personally hope CGI because it looks more realistic. I have no doubt, especially if it's a Force ghost. There's no point in doing the puppet if it's going to be a Force ghost. Because it's going to be digital and kind of blue and whatever. He's going to look all ghosty anyway. So I don't see why they would do it with a puppet, honestly. There would be some shots where a puppet would be best, for sure. But in a situation like this, I think you go digital with it. All right, next question comes to us from Paco Bella. Love that name. Paco Bella writes, John, any chance The Last Jedi might make some controversial decisions that divide the audiences? Oh, absolutely, I think. Absolutely. First of all, no matter what they do with Leia, not everybody's going to be happy. If they have her survive, not everybody's going to be happy. If they have her die, not everybody's going to be happy. There's just no way around that. There's nothing they can do that's going to make everybody happy. And that's fine. There are lots of things they could do with Luke that would make some people happy and some people unhappy. So I think there's a lot of room there for a lot of people to make for them to make some decisions for people to be either happy or unhappy. Let's see. This one comes to us from Deet C, who writes, John, greetings from Germany. Thank you so much for writing from Germany. Do you play any Star Wars mobile games? I love Galaxy of Heroes, even though it's from EA. I have tried every Star Wars mobile game, and I gotta admit, I haven't been thrilled with any of them. Other than the port of, oh, why am I forgetting the name of it? The one with Starkiller in it. Guys, quick, what's the name of the game with Starkiller in it? Jump into the comment section and put the name of that game. It's killing me. I'm going to wait. We got like a 20-second delay between when I actually say something and when it gets to the chat board. But the name of it, Force Unleashed, thank you. The port of Force Unleashed was actually pretty good. That was a pretty good port. It's not easy to port a regular game into a mobile game. That one was pretty good. But for the most part, I got to admit, I haven't been thrilled with the games up to this point. I'm hoping some more games come out that get me a little bit more excited. And again, I'm never buying anything from EA Sports until they change their corrupt and evil ways. All right, this next one. John Campea. John, do you think The Last Jedi may become the greatest Star Wars film? Who knows? I mean, anything's possible. I could make a Star Wars fan film tomorrow in 5 minutes, and it's possible it could be the greatest Star Wars film ever made. We just won't know. It's a new film. It's coming out. Does it have a possibility of being the best? Sure it does. Does it have a possibility of being the absolute worst? Sure it does. So it's really impossible to say until we go in and see it. But anything is possible at this point. Another tweet comes to us from Amadiz2, who writes, John, will you eventually reveal the mother of all spoilers after the movie is released in the United States? Yes, I'll give it like 3 or 4 weeks after it's released in the US and make sure it's released in all the international markets as well. And then I'll discuss about what it is for sure, but not until it's open in every market and everybody's had a chance to see it. That wouldn't be fair. Let's see. This next one comes to us from Slinky Redfoot. Slinky Redfoot writes, John, love this show. Thank you so much. I watched them all. Honest question. What if, by the slim chance, The Last Jedi, frankly, is just not that good? Repercussions. Well, unfortunately, that is a possibility. The Last Jedi could suck. Yeah, Disney's showing a lot of confidence, but okay, they love it, but maybe they think the audience will love it. Maybe what if the audience doesn't? Repercussions? 0. Because Star Wars right now is coming off of 2 incredibly successful films. Not just business-wise, but also audience and critic-wise with The Last Jedi and Rogue One. People love those movies. Not everybody, but not everybody loves any movie. There are people who don't like Godfather. Go figure. But for the most part, The Force Awakens and Rogue One have been very successful both with box office, the critics, and the fans. So because of that, it could handle a bump in the road. So if for whatever reason The Last Jedi comes out and it's not well received, they'll be fine. They'll just keep moving on. Now, if they put out 2 or 3 in a row that fail with the critics or the fans, that could become a problem. But right now, they're coming off 2 strong films. A bad one right now would just be a bump, and they'll keep going and hopefully get the course back on, get the ship right back on course. All right, let's see. On that same note, CF Routard writes, John, if The Last Jedi critically fails, do you think Disney will cancel Rian Johnson's new trilogy? No, because Disney has already put all their chips on the table. Disney has said, regardless of whether the audience likes Rian Johnson's movie, Disney has said, we love Rian Johnson's movie. And for them to pull Rian Johnson off would be for them to condemn their own judgment. And they won't do that. So even if people don't like this one movie, Disney does love it, clearly. If they didn't love it, they wouldn't have hired him for the next trilogy. So even if that did happen, I don't think they would move him. They would keep him on. All right, let's take two more. This next one comes to us from MR Celis9, who writes, John, if The Last Jedi is amazing, could Rian Johnson be compared to Irvin Kershner? Well, it's possible, sure. Look, if he gives us, if we're just talking in theoreticals here, if Rian Johnson ends up giving us the greatest Star Wars movie ever made, like better than Return of the Jedi, better than Empire Strikes Back, whatever, could we start talking about him in those terms? Sure. Yeah, sure we could. Absolutely. No doubt. If it's that good. But that's a tall order. And here's the thing. As a Star Wars fan, I'd be a little concerned that people are saying, I hate coming out of a Star Wars movie and then people first asking, is it better than Empire Strikes Back? Well, first of all, why are you even thinking in those terms? Does it have to be as good as Empire Strikes Back to be amazing? Like, to me, the best Star Wars movie is Return of the Jedi. But the most commonly held position is that Empire is the best movie. Okay, so if you believe Empire is the best movie, Star Wars movie ever, then why do we instantly have to compare it to the best movie ever? It's like, so when I came out of The Force Awakens, I told a friend of mine, well, it's not as good as Empire Strikes Back. Oh, so it disappoints? No, just because it's not as good as Empire doesn't mean it's not amazing. I can list off 100 fantastic movies that are not as good as The Godfather Part 2. That doesn't mean they're all subpar. No, they're all still amazing. It's just The Godfather Part 2 is way up here. Empire Strikes Back is way up here. And if it's not quite as good as Empire Strikes Back, I just want people to take a breath that if people come out and say, okay, it's not the greatest Star Wars movie ever, go, oh, so it's disappointed. No, that doesn't mean it's disappointed. It just means it's not one of the greatest films in history. It can still be great, and I hope people evaluate it on that level. All right, last question of the day. This one's gone over an hour, guys. All right, last question of the day. And that one comes to us from I Sip That Tea. And I Sip That Tea writes, would it be possible that Yoda will be in the movie as a Force ghost? And would it be cool? Well, number one, it would be cool if it fits in with the story. What I don't want is some forced in there cameo that's shoehorned in just for the sake of it. Like, look, if Yoda's Force ghost shows up and there's a narrative reason why he's there, great, fantastic, that would be cool. If he just is shoehorned in there like R2 and 3PO were in the Rebel base at the end of Rogue One, that'll take me out of the movie. It's like, there was no point. That was just a shameless, look guys, R2 and 3PO are here. It was just a shame. I love the movie. The movie's awesome, but that kind of bothered me a little bit. As long as they set up, they want to use Yoda, fine. Make it imperative to the narrative that he be there. Even if it's just for one scene, make sure it's essential to the narrative that you're going to have him there so it makes sense and it fits in and it flows with the movie rather than this a jarring, oh, well, I guess there's 3PO. You know, and I love 3PO, don't get me wrong, I love 3PO. I'm just saying, if you're going to put him in there, make sure there's a narrative purpose to him being there, and then I'll be totally fine and I'll be totally happy. I'll be totally happy. Whew! All right, guys. Well, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to believe. This is the final Star Wars Talk Tuesday before I have a chance to see The Force Awakens and give out my review. Obviously, the next episode of Star Wars Talk Tuesdays, we're probably going to be talking a lot. Although I promise you, I make you this vow. I will not spoil anything in Star Wars The Last Jedi. In my review, which I never do give spoilers in my reviews, unless I say, this is a spoiler review. I never give spoilers, I won't. And I will not spoil anything on Star Wars Talk Tuesday. I absolutely promise you that. I give you my word right now, for sure. But look, if I tell you something that happens in the first 30 seconds of the film, that's not a spoiler. But I promise not to give you anything that would be considered by general people to be a spoiler, I promise. Okay, so guys, I have had a great time doing today's show. I hope you guys have had a good time doing it too. Remember, the whole point of these shows is not for me to say things that you agree with. It's not important if you agree with me or not about my opinions. It's just about us having a dialogue. And I hope that my job is that I hopefully present my opinions in such a way that it helps you better sharpen your opinion, whether it's an opinion that agrees with me, or maybe my opinion helps you better understand why you disagree with me. It's not about agreement. What fun is it if we agree about everything, other than that we all love Star Wars? But other than that, what's the fun if we all just agreed with everything and the same thing? No, we want to have different opinions. And if me stating my opinion is different than yours, you shouldn't necessarily change your opinion. If you are really believing your opinion, don't change it, but still have this dialogue. That's the great thing about being a film fan. So I'm glad you guys are here with me today. Let me talk about Star Wars. Let me hear your questions about Star Wars and your thoughts and opinions about Star Wars as well. Do me a favor, guys. Yes, we have crossed 100,000 subscribers. We got room for a whole bunch more. Click on that subscribe button. Become a subscriber to the YouTube channel. Make sure you click the thumbs up button. That helps these videos a lot. Make sure you leave a thought in the description below, or a thought in the comment section below. Remember, let's have some disagreements, but let's be respectful. We're all Star Wars fans together. And follow me on social media and all that other kind of good stuff. So, that'll do it for this very long-winded, very long edition of Star Wars Talk Tuesdays. I'm awfully glad you guys came along for the ride, and honestly, just emotional nonsense thing for a minute. Seriously, guys, you have no idea how much it means to me on a personal level, as a Star Wars fan, as a movie fan, that you guys support this show, that you guys are here joining me and talking to me. Thank you to all you guys who sent in super chats. You support me in a financial way. Thank you to all you guys who sent in Twitter questions. You support this show in a creative way. Thank you to all you guys who are subscribers and all that kind of good stuff. So that'll do it for me for today, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.